Okay, so in Photoshop, start off with File, New. So go ahead and just name it accordingly. Let's see. Oops, I forgot the section. Sorry. Okay, and we're going to make sure you're just make sure you're in web. Also change the width. We're going to be creating a 1,000 pixel wide. So I'm going to want some little bit of breathing room. So I'm going to go ahead and get my 1040 there. And also I'm going to change the height to 1,000. Keep resolution at 72. And don't worry about the managing of that. I'm going to click OK and close the door. Now you should have something that looks more or less like this. Now, make sure somewhere along there that you indicated that you wanted a white background. Okay. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to go into Preferences. So under the Photoshop CC, the top menu, Preferences, go down to Guides, Grid, and Slices. And down here where it says Grid, we are going to create, okay, first of all, make sure this is pixels. Let's set as pixels. And I'm going to go ahead and have a grid at 20 and have subdivisions of 20. What this does is when I'm zoomed out, I will see a grid at every 20 pixels. When I zoom in, I'll see 1 pixel in between all of that. If you don't like the color, you can certainly change it. Click on that and give yourself another color, but I'm going to leave it at gray as it is. That's fine with me. Click OK. I don't see anything. Okay, so under View, if you go down to Show, you will see Grid. Also remember it's going to be Command apostrophe right to the left of Return. Will let you see the grid and not the grid. So again, Command on off. I'm going to Command one, so I can see what's really kind of going on here. And there we go. And then, so I'm going to fit on screen. Keep in mind now I'm looking at something at 53. And I might want to be zooming at something bigger or smaller so I can zoom in and out on that one. But as it goes, so there's your space. We're going to be using this. Keep in mind also that this is at 1040. I only need 1,000. I want to create some guides that start at 20 points in and or 20 pixels in and 20 pixels out. A couple ways I can do that. One of the quicker and faster and more efficient, well, necessarily absolute ways, is to create a new guide. And if that one is to be at 20 on the vertical, I click OK, and now's my guide. I do that very same thing on the right side by New Guide, and keeping in mind that the whole thing is 1040 wide. 20 pixels in would be there at 20 pixels. So now that's my 1,000 pixel wide area. The reason why I'm using 1,000 pixels is everything breaks down very easily into tens. So I can use a very simple process of percentages when I tell the browser how to break things down. In other words, breaking up my area in units of, well, in this case, 20 visual, units of basic of 10, will make the figuring out what percentage it is directly right there, and the information will be directly in front of me. Okay, so I've got the width out of the way out. Now I want to break this up more or less in horizontal stack. First thing is I can just drag a guide to the very top of this to where it's at 0. Just to begin the first one. And I'm going to be breaking this down into little slices of area. Now these particular dimensions are not necessarily arbitrary. Some of them are absolute, I'll hold you to them. The other ones you can decide on how you want to do it yourself. The first one is exactly how high a header you want, and this will be where you display your logo. This height is completely and thoroughly up to you. I would recommend something of reason. Don't get too carried away. I'm going to go ahead with 100 myself. Again, this is really up to you. Some of these heights can be adjusted in the design later. You're not going to be hold too much to a lot of these things in that regard. Height isn't necessarily one of those. Width will be, though. So I'll give myself 1,000 or 100 pixel area for my logo area. The next dimension is an absolute, and that is I'm going to be isolating the menu area. Because this is a responsive design, people will be expected to be using their fingers and thumbs to get their way through it using a tablet and or a mobile device. So therefore the buttons, the navigation, and anything that has anyone clicking on anything needs to have enough space so that that finger, especially someone of my size, can actually click on that without clicking on everything else around it. So, rule of thumb, we're going with 50 pixel, a 50 pixel area of height, minimal, on anything that's clickable as a menu item. So in this case, it starts at 100. I can just click a new guide at 150, horizontal, and that will give my 50 pixels for my menu. Now the next little bit will be where my hero banner area is going to be. This is kind of my big splash area. And for me, I'm going to go ahead and create something that's 250 pixels high and use the entire width. So we're looking at 150 now. So new guide, 150 plus 250 is, anybody?
400.
400. Thank you very much. So there's my 250 pixel space. After that, I'm going to have a little area that I want to put some text in. This will be all, again, primary area for my little intro paragraph and other information that not only is good for the user, but also for the search engine optimization. I'm going to allow 200 points or 200 pixels for that. So my new guide will come in at around 600. Again, those last few numbers are up to you. If you notice, though, I've been using whole numbers. Definitely units of 10 and 50, just to keep things visually in order. All right, I'm going to allocate 300 more pixels of height there for where my CTAs are going to be. These are my little pockets. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm at 600, so I'll go ahead and type in 900 there. I have two other menu bits. I'm going to have a lower menu or a footer menu. That'll be general menu. And then I'll have a footer utility menu, which will have my little login. And also include my copyright. Which case, again, rule of thumb on menus, minimal height is, let's go with 50. So I'm going to go ahead and put a new menu in there. One more new guide at 950. And the last one, which is going to snap to the bottom, I can actually drag from the top there and snap it right to the bottom of the page, and it'll snap in place. So now I've allocated some space. Now remember, these are guidelines. These are not on the grid. They are not printable and they're not visible by anything outside of Photoshop. So these are just here for our use. We have to create the boxes using the shape tool. At this point, we have one or two more items to put in. The last one, well, at least one we need is to find center, so we can position certain things off of center. Another thing about the guidelines, if you click on any object, in this case we have the layer 1 here, I can actually go ahead and drag a guideline in, and it'll snap to the center if you just let it. And I know the center is at 520. And sure enough, it snaps right to it. The last thing I'm going to do, because this is just annoying me, I'm going to change this layer 1 to a background. So I'm going to go up to Layer, go to New, and Background from Layer, and leave it at that. All right. Now if I Command apostrophe, I'll turn off my guide, my grid, and if I do Command colon, I'll turn off my guides. Opposite, Command apostrophe will turn on my grid, and Command we'll turn on my guides. All right, it's about where we need to go. We might consider, we're going to split this area up here, down here in thirds, but we'll get to that when we get there. Okay. I'm going to, that's basically creating your guide. Now remember to file and save. This should, again, if you named it correctly, it should be saving to a location which you have your choice. And I'll click OK. All right, and that's pretty much how you do that.